In a world where giant monsters ravage cities and humans live in fear of unforeseeable dangers, there is an entity that has transcended all the limits the world has ever known. He is not a god, nor is he a supernatural being born from another dimension. He is just a human, an ordinary human, but has stepped beyond the limits of all living beings, becoming the ultimate embodiment of absolute power. His name is Saitama. His journey began with a simple desire: to become a hero. Not for fame, money, or status, simply because he wanted to protect others. One fateful day, when faced with a monstrous creature threatening a child, he realized that without power, he could do nothing. From that moment on, he decided to change himself. No fancy gym, no super serum, no technology to help. He followed a seemingly stupid but brutal training regimen. 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups, 100 squats, and a 10-kilometer run every day. No days off, no exceptions. 3 years straight, under the blazing sun, the bitter cold, the pouring rain, and the snow. His body was torn, his spirit was broken, but he kept going. Until one day, he no longer felt pain, he no longer felt fatigue, he no longer felt excitement. He was unrivaled. The so-called limit, the invisible boundary set by the hand of creation, was broken by him. All living creatures were imposed a limit to prevent them from growing endlessly, to preserve the balance in the world. But he had crossed that limit, broken the cocoon of humanity, and become something that could not be defined. There was no one, nothing that could compare to him. One punch was enough. No matter how big the opponent was that covered the horizon, no matter how much energy they possessed that could melt the entire planet, it only took one punch to end it all. In the universe where he existed, monsters were classified according to their level of threat. Tigers, demons, dragons, and finally, the highest level of gods, where creatures could destroy the entire human civilization with a single action. But to him, all of them were just empty names. He defeated those who were considered gods of destruction with nothing more than a lazy swing of his hand. One of the creatures considered the strongest in the deep-sea king, who had crushed a series of S-class heroes, was defeated by him in the moment before the dark clouds in the sky had time to clear. The impact from that punch was enough to tear apart the atmosphere, turning the entire storm into ashes.
But among the weak, there was one being who dreamed of rising above them all. Boros, the ruler of the galaxy. An alien with the ability to regenerate from every molecule of his blood, it was prophesied that he would find his true match on Earth. When he descended upon the planet, destruction followed like a nightmare. Cities collapsed beneath his feet. The sky burned with the light of planetary weapons. Then the two beings faced off. Saitama and Boros. In their first encounter, Boros felt something he had never felt before. An endless void, a bottomless abyss that was Saitama's power. A seemingly normal first punch broke through Boros' restraining armor. But the battle was not over. Boros activated his full potential, transforming and firing strikes that could level mountains. Lights shot across the sky, each brilliant explosion painting a picture of the end of the world. Saitama was sent flying all the way to the moon. But he got up. The empty air of space did not slow him down. With a single leap, he tore through space, traveling hundreds of thousands of kilometers, returning to Earth in a split second at the speed of light. A moment that silenced the universe. Boros unleashed his final blow, the Star Destroyer cannon, a beam of energy that could burn the surface of a planet. In that blinding light, Saitama responded. It was no longer his usual punch. This time, it was a serious punch, just one. The shockwave from the blow shattered Boros' weapon of destruction, split the atmosphere, and tore the sky of Earth in two. Boros, in his last breath, admitted a bitter truth. Even now, Saitama had not used his full power. And then he died. Without fanfare, without drums, a king fell in silence, and the victor stood alone in the desolate universe. The world continued to spin. Other strong beings appeared. The Monster Association sent out their top warriors, Elder Centipede, a giant creature hundreds of kilometers long. The Overgrown Rover, a mutant dragon that could shoot energy beams that continuously destroyed all obstacles. And the Pinnacle, the king of monsters Orochi, who had evolved beyond his limits after his battle with Garou. But no matter how strong they were, the outcome was the same. One punch. Just one punch. Garou, someone different. Unlike the transformed creatures, he was a human who had transformed himself into a monster through pure will and hatred. His body was constantly evolving, surpassing the limits of humans and even monsters. In the battle with the cloned entity, Platinum Sperm, their speed had surpassed all standards. Every movement took place in a millisecond, creating a dance of death between rays of light and faint afterimages. But in the end, no matter how much the enemy changed, no matter how many more transcendent beings the universe produced, there was only one entity that stood above them all. A bald entity with lazy eyes, a dazzling golden outfit, and a power that even gods had to turn their heads away from. In the dark void of the vast universe, where light is but a fragile flicker in the endless ocean of darkness, there exists an entity that even the stars tremble at his presence. He is called by a simple but absolute name, God. He does not manifest as a benevolent creator, nor is he a symbol of justice. He is the source of all order and chaos, the beginning and the end of all existence. In a world where heroes and monsters fight endlessly, God is the deepest layer, the final limit that no one can surpass, or at least, it was, until a human stepped in and shattered that definition. Through years of secret research, the strongest hero in the human system, Blast, gradually discovered the truth about this mysterious entity. His conversations with God took place in fractured dimensions, moments of time that humans normally could not reach. Blast came to the conclusion that God not only created the universe, but also controlled the flow of time and space, all particles of matter and all forms of energy. He needed no machines, no words, only ideas. And his ideas were the laws of all things. In a dramatic turn of events, Garo, a humanoid entity with a monster dream, was brought into the presence of God, not through ritual or summoning, but through a process of twisting fate.
When confronted, God did not appear in a terrifying or transcendent form, but chose to manifest as the person who had the deepest influence on Garo. That was how he manipulated minds, traded faith to turn humans into tools for his ambitions. The god held out his hand, offering to give Garo a portion of his power. Just a portion, but enough to overcome all limits. Just a touch, just receiving. But Garo refused. He pushed the god's hand away in a defiant act of defiance. And in that moment, when the god's and Garo's hands touched, even for a moment, something extraordinary happened. No one could measure what was transmitted through that touch. But when Garo returned to Earth, he was no longer a monster. He had become a god. He was cosmic Garo. No more limits, no more human form. Garo now had complete awareness of all the energy in the universe. He didn't just copy anyone's techniques like he did when he was human. He now possessed the power to create techniques. He simulated space, controlled fusion reactions, opened subdimensional portals with his own power. And in a devastating display, he punched through Genos's core right in front of Saitama. In that moment, everything stopped. Saitama held his friend's still heating core in his hand, and his entire existence was focused on one thing: ending this battle. No more humility, no more casual punches. He threw the most serious punch he had ever needed before. But Garo, with the power of a god, copied even that punch. He called his counterattack Serious Punch, Symmetry, and delivered a punch that stopped time. Blast immediately sensed the impending destruction and opened a subdimensional portal to push the battle into outer space. The cataclysmic collision between the two entities was beyond all definition. The impact sent both Garo and Saitama flying to one of Jupiter's moons. That punch would later be called the Squared Serious Punch, a punch powerful enough to destroy hundreds of galaxies, if calculated by the inverse square law of the energy emitted. Space was punctured, light was shattered, and the stars within the radius of impact were swept away like dust. Saitama looked at Garo, not smiling, not excited. He was silent because his friends had fallen. The rage in him was not an emotion, but the instinct of an entity pushed to its limits. Garo continued to fight back, using every skill he possessed, from teleportation to energy manipulation, but all were ineffective. He opened the subdimensional gate to escape, but was kicked away by Saitama like a wooden door. In an unreal scene, Saitama grabbed the surface of the moon, lifted the entire layer of rock, and performed a serious table flip in a symbolic act of absolute defiance.
Garo was horrified. He looked up at the power chart. While his power was steadily increasing, Saitama's power was increasing exponentially, beyond calculation. He tried to copy that, but failed, because Saitama's growth rate could not be simulated. It was an evolution beyond the law. In a bizarre reflex, Saitama sneezed.
just a sneeze, but enough to obliterate the entire Jupiter, a giant planet that vanished into the cosmic wind. Garo, desperate, decided to retreat. He opened a space portal to escape to Earth, but Saitama would not allow it. With a serious fart, he surpassed the speed of light, traveled through space, and intercepted Garo before he could set foot on the ground. The final confrontation took place on Earth. When Garo realized that the boy he had protected was dead, he gave up. He admitted defeat. He looked at Saitama and said, "If anyone can control the power of God without being destroyed, it is only you." He then imparted to Saitama the knowledge of reversing particles and antiparticles, the fundamental energy of the universe. And God, from afar, decided to erase the power he had given Garo. In the final moment, as time began to reverse, Saitama was pulled back into the past. He witnessed every event that had happened, moment by moment. And then, in that fateful moment, he clenched his fist, throwing a punch that broke the very law of cause and effect. A punch that erased the very possibility of the fight happening. A punch that ended everything without ever starting. A punch that was not one, but nothing. Saitama stood there, between space and time, with immeasurable power. Power that continued to increase, without end. And although he had never considered himself a god, now, the world had no concept to call him other than that name. Could the one who was created defeat the one who created everything? Could Saitama defeat God himself? But he was Saitama, the strongest, the loneliest, and the only one whose one punch had defined the fate of the world.